And I actually still have the Windows phone that got me started, the absolute first one we got in Sweden with the I love Windows Phone stickers on it, just to remind me where we came from. My name is Jessica. I'm a UXer, CEO, teacher, podcaster, streamer, and a total geek.
And my name is Alvin Ashcraft. I'm a software developer for Allscripts, and I'm a Windows Dev MVP, a blogger, and I'm all over social media.
So, Alvin, what do you do professionally?
So I'm a software developer in the healthcare industry. I work with .NET, WPF, Angular, and ASP.NET. And I've been working with WPF for about 15 years now and .NET for nearly 20 years.
I run a company together with my husband where I am fortunate to be able to do many different things, everything that's fun, basically. So mostly I currently teach developers UX and Scrum at an accelerated learning vocational school. But we also do trainings in UX and speaker skills and Blazor and all of that thing. And back in the day, when HoloLens 1 came around, we did some consulting on that as well. So I'm really fortunate to be able to work with so much fun stuff. So how did you get started as a developer?
So it was probably back in the mid 90s. Taught myself Visual Basic from a VB2 book that I bought. And my first developer job was working with VB3 and Microsoft Access. Created some electronic fillable forms for an insurance company, took their paper forms and converted those over into electronic ones that they could store the data in.
Well, I have been a Windows Developer MVP for 7 years, and I have developed 50 Windows and Windows Phone apps, but I've actually never been employed as a developer. But I did study programming back in the day, like you did BASIC and Java and C++. So what really got me into the developer community is when we started to go to conferences and meetups and completely fell in love with the community.
So what first got you interested in the world of UX?
Windows Design Language, or Metro as it was known back in the day when Windows Phone was announced. And that was a huge revelation for me. The fact that everything was just clear and easy and just worked it really resonated with me. And this was around the same time as when my mom upgraded from Windows XP to Windows 8. And I mention this because she used as non-technical as they come. But all of a sudden, all the support calls stopped. And she just knew how to work her computer. And all because of the UX of Windows 8 was much more user-friendly. So that gave her the confidence to actually use it and start learning. So today she's super technical. She's managing Facebook pages. She's really active on Twitch, and she is far from technical. So how did you get started with blogging?
So I got started, I don't even remember how many years ago now, over 10, 12 years ago. So I used to be a real probably pain to my friends and people I worked with, emailing links to people. Hey, did you see this? Did you see that? So one day I just decided to take those links and put them up on a blog post every day, and people could subscribe to my blog, or I could just email them once in a while with a link to my blog with all the links instead of getting multiple emails from me every day.
And that's really a good solution as well, because then you have the references to go back years and years.
Right. It also became my read it later list.
That's perfect.
So how do you bring UX and development together in your programs?
The best tip I can give you is to never forget that there's always an end user. Concentrate on making it just work for the user, and not so much on having the nicest and coolest, sleek-looking UI, because if the user needs to do an extra click or even have to think about where to click, we probably have put the UI elements or buttons in a non-optimal way so they don't find them. So what's your favorite part of being a Windows developer?
Probably a lot of the things that you've talked about, being with the community, interacting with them online, at events like the MVP Summit and other developer events. Yeah. It's great how you get to just interact with people in the same kind of world as you, but from around the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't stress this enough. The developer community has been, at least for me, the kindest community where everybody just try to help each other if they can.
Yeah, it really has been great.
So I heard that you have published your first book on WinUI. Tell me
Yes.
more.
So it came out back in March. I worked on it for most of last year during the pandemic. The timing actually worked out pretty well for me. I was at home anyway, so I spent most of the weekends writing. Like I said, it came out in March from Packet Publishing, and it's called Learn WinUI 3, and covers everything you need to know about WinUI development and debugging, how to publish your apps in the App Store. It was a lot of fun to write. I worked with Nick Randolph, who was the tech reviewer on the book. He's another MVP who knows a ton about all kinds of XAML languages, including WinUI. Um, I'd say the biggest challenge with it was keeping up with the WinUI team as they were releasing previews throughout the year last year, and things were changing, breaking, fixing. Just yeah, it was fun though. I had a great time.
That's great. And that's the issue with writing books in a community like the .NET community, which is kind of fast paced. We're used to getting things so quickly now
Hmm.
that you really need to keep up. So I imagine that was a struggle.
Yeah, even now, I mean, things are changing. The packages from .NET Reunion changed from when the book was written, so I'm trying to keep up on the GitHub repo with all those changes. So, Jessica, what are some lessons that you learned as you transitioned from a developer to a UX designer?
Actually, there's a lot of similarities, and I try to focus on practical UX, not as much of the fluffy stuff. Because sometimes it's a lot of it should feel like this, and you should just know what's right, but there's no tangible thing there. So I think trying to break it down and make it practical has helped. And also just knowing how the developer process works, that there is a vast, huge deadline and backlog, and you have all of those things. And it's not just fix that bug, there's a whole process, and that can take time. Just knowing that has been invaluable because I speak dev, but I also speak UX, so I can kind of bridge that gap.
Nice. Yeah, that's really helpful to understand how the other parts of your team work. Like
Yeah.
Dev and QA, having that understanding between those two teams as well is really important. How have you stayed close with your community during the pandemic?
Well, it's been kind of tough to find a way to convert a physical user group. So we have the code heavy user group, Coding After Work, because we still want to give some sort of added value rather than just putting on a video from YouTube or something like that. So we started streaming on Twitch with guests. And we do sort of a hybrid with code and presentations, and we get a little personal with the guest speakers. And our community has really embraced it. And we're over the moon that we can still give back to the community and keep in contact during the pandemic. Actually, we enjoyed it so much that we just started a second channel where we build Lego and just geek out. So it's been fun.
Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. Twitch has really taken off over the last few years.
Definitely. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Probably the best piece of advice that I can apply in a lot of different areas is that whatever you do, just be consistent. People like predictability. They like to be able to count on something. So whether it's blogging or your Twitch streaming or things you're doing at work, just be consistent with what you do. People will expect, you put out your Twitch stream on a certain day every week. If you start being a little more inconsistent, you'll see your subscribers dropping off.
That's a really great tip because when we started streaming, we were at that stage. So are we streaming 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 1 time a week? We don't know. So we're actually down to one a week, or we started out once a week,
Mhm.
just to get that cadence going because we don't want to, like you say, promise something and then take it back.
So how about you? What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Take a step back. If something feels huge or complicated, ask yourself what's the smallest step you need to do to make that big thing happen. And I need to do this all the time because if I run into issues, I do this all the time when developing because I see this huge problem I need to fix. I need to build this web page. But what I actually need to do just do this little function. And sometimes I struggle with that. So definitely take a step back.
Yeah, it's very important to be able to break things down and not get overwhelmed.
So how do you stay on top of trends?
So the two things I've probably follow most are Twitter. I have a lot of people I follow on Twitter. I break them down into lists to get the software developers or other different kinds of categories in sports and things. And I also follow hundreds of blogs. I use an app called Newsblur where I can subscribe to blogs and categorize those. And so I read through those every day. And that's actually how I create my blog, The Morning Dew, every day. I have a link blog. And in Newsblur, I tag the items. And then I have a plugin for Windows Live Writer that pulls in all the things I've tagged every day to publish on the blog.
Who is one person on social media that everyone should follow?
I would recommend Nick Randolph, the guy who was the tech reviewer for my book. He's a longtime blogger and has been in the Windows dev community for a long time. Knows a lot about Uno platform and Xamarin, WinUI, all of those things. And he's very active on Twitter and on his blog. And his Twitter handle is the Nick Randolph.
So I would actually say Jeff Fritz, Stacey Cashmore, and Ginny Cagney. And Jeff Fritz is really good because he lifts up other community members and he retweets a lot of stuff invaluable in the community, I would say.
Yeah, he's been fantastic at building up the Twitch community as well. Jessica, it was nice chatting with you. Where can people find you on social media and other places on the web?
It was great to chatting with you too. I am Engstrom Jess on most of the platforms, so you can find me there. My blog is engstromjess.com as well. So you can find me there. Where do we find you and your amazing blog? I need to check that out.
Well, my main blog is alvinashcraft.com, and you can find me on socials, Alvin Ashcraft, most places. And I also have a WinUI blog called winui.tips. Well, it was great talking with you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.